This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing stated on it, either by its hosts or any guests, is to be construed as psychological, medical, or legal advice. You are listening to Adoptees On, the podcast where adoptees discuss the adoption experience. I'm Haley Radke. This is a special episode in our healing series where I interview therapists who are also adoptees themselves. Today's show is also special because it's our last episode before our summer break. And I'm going to tell you all about our other summer plans and some exciting announcements at the end of the show. Before we get started, though, I want to personally invite you to join our Patreon adoptee community today over on adopteeson.com/community, which helps support you and also the show to support more adoptees around the world. Links to everything we'll be talking about today are on the website adopteeson.com. Let's listen in. I'm so pleased to welcome back to Adoptees On. I was going to count how many times you've been on, but I haven't. So many. You might be the most, you might have the most Adoptees On episodes at this point. Anyway, Marta Isabella Sierra Cifuentes. Welcome back, Marta.
Hi, Haley.
Have you kept track? Are we at double digits yet?
I think we're at double digits. I also have not counted.
If you count Patreon, for sure.
For sure. Yes. Well, and there's some clips from the Patreon that are on the public.
Oh, that's true. It's so true. Yeah, you're everywhere. Okay. So speaking of Patreon, you come on pretty regularly. We have a show once a month where we do Ask an Adoptee Therapist. And this was the impetus for our conversation today because someone submitted a question that kind of like lit off all the fireworks in everybody's brains because it sort of just spiraled out into a bunch of different topics. The question was an adoptee finding out that she was not going to inherit the same as her biological mom's kept kids were. The will is different for her and the big feelings associated with that. And it just brought us all to thinking about adoptees and money. Like it's a big deal. Of course, everybody uses money. And I'm curious what your first thoughts are on how does being adopted even shape our relationship with money?
I mean, I think the relationship, first of all, is just an interesting one. I worked with a money coach years ago in Seattle, and that was when I was doing exclusively work in the eating disorders world. And something she said to me in one of our first meetings was so impactful, and I still think about it all the time, and I share it with clients. The biggest difference between like substance abuse and because we can have addictive behavior, right, with food and with money is you don't need to take substances to survive. You can cut it out of your life completely. But if you have an unhealthy relationship with food or money, you have to figure it out. You cannot live without having a relationship with food or having a relationship with money. So sometimes there's also an interesting dynamic there too around the food and the money. Like maybe we're restrictive in one place and I'm really out of control in the other or vice versa. I just thought that was an interesting way to think about it. And I think I know you've explored that a lot on the podcast. I feel like our relationship with food as adoptees and our relationship with our bodies. And so, yeah, money is part of that really complicated relationship with like our brain chemistry. The spending and the saving and then yes, of course, there's the really essential piece of that our lives started with money changing hands, and how does that affect how we feel about ourselves as commodified people?
Can we pause there? Because I think that's one thing that a lot of people really don't think about. Being commodified and money changing hands, and whether or not it was a, private $100,000 adoption so you could get the race of child that you wanted, or a public, adopt from foster care situation where maybe the adoptive parent is the one receiving money. Like money is happening. It's happening in all the situations. Someone is profiting, whether it's the government or the agency or the adoptive parent. And oh my gosh, I've seen so many people talking about the adoption tax credits, and it's just so, where's the therapy tax credit for us?
And then, of course, tied into all of that in that moment and the money changing hands and like the salesmanship of the adoption agencies, like all of this really yucky pieces is also this idea that financially stable, quote unquote, adoptive parents is such a piece of what makes them more qualified to raise us than our birth parents. And I think that's also super complex because we do not all get adopted into wealthy families. Some families use every penny that they have, and then that child grows up with a lot of financial difficulty, and maybe even with the knowledge that like their adoption is part of what put the family into a rough financial situation to start out with. And so I think there's this illusion that if someone has enough money to purchase a baby, that they're in a certain place. But I think as with all spending, right? Like we can all figure out how to spend a lot of money. That's not necessarily reflective of like how much financial stability or security we might have. There are ways to get things that are out of your financial comfort zone, out of your budget. I don't know. Words are failing me.
I vividly remember talking with Renee from Saving Our Sisters. So it's a charity that promotes family preservation and helps moms in crisis get through that temporary time period of crisis. And I remember her telling me about when she placed her son for adoption because she was in a temporary financial crisis. And then like later finding out like the differences in salaries between her actually very well-paying job and the adoptive family that adopted her son. And it was significant. They were significantly lower. I was like, yes. Okay, like it's true. Like you don't know if you're like, you don't know where your child is going to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming to terms with the commodification of it all, most of us don't think about that till later on. And so do you think that's like underneath, like that we have some idea of that subconsciously that is affecting, she's nodding her head at me. Yeah.
Yes. This is an embarrassing story, but I'm going to tell it because I think it's important. I think I had so much shame about it as a kid and so much consciousness about it and so much insecurity about my difference, about being the only kid like in my school, in my area that was adopted, that I turned it around, right? Like we can often do. Whatever we're insecure about, we can turn it around and weaponize it. So when kids would tease me about being adopted or come at me about it, I would say, well, you might not even have been planned, but I was bought and paid for.
But I've heard that.
I know it's terrible and I'm embarrassed about it now, but I just needed something to feel better about. And I think because there was so much shame about it, I like switched the narrative on it to try to feel empowered in some way, to try to feel chosen, right? Mm-hmm. As the story had been told, I was trying to feel wanted and chosen and special when actually I felt discarded.
Yes.
And inhuman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really profound. And okay, so I'm back on TikTok because I'm using it to work on my new show. Anyway, I've seen a lot of videos where people talking about that, like from a fully positive perspective. Mm-hmm. Yes. It's like you see it, but you can't see it. Like you're almost there, right? You're almost there, but you don't want to pop their bubbles. Oh.
And then I think like how that unfolds over time is this really sticky relationship with money as we get older, like the ways that money can be used as control around managing adoptees' behavior starting, I think, in like adolescence, maybe with like control around allowances. If you step out of line, you don't get your allowance. And I think all of that, do some biological parents do that? Sure. But I think the way that it lands on us is different because money already has this different weight around worthiness. And so, right, if adoptees are always like kind of bracing to be abandoned, reabandoned, sent back, I think we're also bracing to be financially abandoned. And so these threats, I think they land different on us and create, yeah, a complicated relationship well into adulthood.
I mean, this is what's coming to mind is this combination of that, the financial safety and the adoptee loyalty. So, for people who don't know what that is, it's sort of like you're sort of obligated to be loyal to your adoptive family because of just those things. Like, as a teenager, are they going to provide transportation for you? Like, are they going to help you buy a car? Are they going to help you pay for college? If you start, you're probably thinking critically about adoption, possibly. But if you start speaking out critically about adoption, all of those things can be taken away.
Yes.
And well, I'm thinking of a bunch of different things. I mean, there's all kinds of scenarios, right? We see adoptees getting sent away to camps to change behavior, becoming homeless, just kicked out, like all of those kinds of pieces. So that control and sort of forced loyalty, whether or not that's really what they're experiencing. How do I put this? You know what I mean?
The choice ends up being for, I think, a significant portion of us is compliance or a lack of financial safety.
Yeah.
And that's a really brutal situation to be put in. And we all make our own choices around that. But yeah, I think I have known several adopted and trafficked people who stay in unhealthy dynamics because of the financial stability that it provides them. And I would never judge an adopted or trafficked person for whatever choices they're making that are safety based. And they should not be in that situation to begin with.
Right. It's the yes and. It's like, you're experiencing this, we get it, and you shouldn't have had to. Yeah. Okay. What are you seeing with clients? Do clients come and talk about money things with you?
Absolutely. I mean, again, I think for the food link, like it touches everything. And I think money is so linked to care, right? I think there's a lot of dynamics where the only care people experience from their adoptive parents is financial. And so it does carry that meaning. Maybe if there's not a lot of attunement or emotional connection, but there is this financial help, then it comes to mean so much. And then there can be like a hyperfixation on things and like expensive things and different things like that. I think I see a lot of, yes, in the addiction realm, like overspending, compulsive spending. And it's that like seeking of the pleasure and the soothing. I think even around like buying, if you've never had like a parent cook for you, buying yourself takeout or delivery can feel like that you're giving yourself that care. And again, that's certainly something that I go to when I'm feeling not cared for. That's a way that I will care for myself. But of course, there's a line. It can get really out of hand. And of course, we want that, right? I think, what is self-care that doesn't involve money? It's a short list. And so even when we're talking about taking care of ourselves, there's financial decisions being made in all of that all the time.
That's the self-care without money. That's sort of like, yeah, that great point. Deep breathing, sit in the sunshine. I mean, go for a walk.
Hot shower, but you do pay that water bill.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me how I know I have a teen son who really likes long showers. I've seen I don't see I'm not a therapist, right? And I don't see clients, but I've seen so much of this in the adoptee community. Like I've seen the overspending, the people who hoard, just like total irresponsibility. And then also this piece of trying to be as successful as possible and building wealth to prove worthiness.
And the fear is woven into that too, right? With the scarcity mindset. Yes, I cannot have enough money. I don't, yeah, like you said, the hoarding, I don't want to spend any money. And that's about a lack of safety. And again, this association that we have with that more money can buy you safety, which sometimes it very literally can. That's not a feeling, that's a fact. And so, yes, I think that because I think we don't think about it this way because of adoptions often happening in infant and early childhood, but like there's time in those timelines in all of our stories where we were houseless, where we were familyless and houseless, where we had no resource and no stability. And so that's in there deep. And so we fear that. Even if as an adult you've never experienced houselessness, you may still have that fear like coded into your DNA. And so in a world that we're living in right now, where abuse of housing costs has never been worse. The last few years, I have had so many clients be in really rough housing situations. I've been in some rough housing moments in the past couple of years, and the trigger vibrates all the way down to the primal wound so quickly.
I mean, I never thought about it, but you're so right. I mean, all the people who were even infant adoption, sometimes there's foster care in between. I was at the hospital for 10 days before I ever went home, there is a gap.
Yes.
For a lot of people. Wow. Sorry, that's sort of just one more of those great light bulb moments from you. Okay, so one of the things, the question that got asked initially, I'm going to read it out here. And it kind of touched a nerve for me because I have a personal experience of, I remember this vividly, and I don't know if I was in reunion yet or not, but I was adopted by parents that were just a little bit older. And so my parents always seemed older to me than anybody else's parents. And they're around the same age as my maternal grandparents, just to give a sense. Okay. And so I remember asking my adoptive mother at one point, growing up as an only child, they were already retired at this point. And I just said, do you guys have current wills? Do you guys have a plan in place? Just literally, Marta, I was just asking because I thought, man, they're getting older. Who knows? And it's on me. And so
yes,
I just want, where can I find it? I'd like to know your wishes. It's pretty basic stuff. I mean, I've talked, even when I was a young married person, I used to joke around with our friends saying, we should have a funeral planning party just because you never know. And let's talk about it. Let's normalize it.
Yes.
Remember I told you I always thought maybe at some point I'd work at a funeral home. I don't know. Maybe when I'm older. Anyway, I asked my adoptive mother, do you guys have current wills? She went to 10 and just shut down. She was angry that I asked. And then it was like, we are not talking about this. And then she gave me the silent treatment for a while, which is the same thing that happened when I got my second holes in my ear piercing. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so that's why this question sort of hit a buzzer with me, because I was like, it's not scandalous to talk about wills. We should know. It shouldn't be a surprise. And yeah, it's not. I don't know. Okay, let me read this question that was submitted. Can we talk wills? I promise I'm not money grubbing, but this has me livid. I found out that my bio mom has left her kept kids everything, and I won't get anything when she passes. Where is the equality? This could break our reunion, frankly. What is the ethical thing to do in this situation? I don't even know how to bring it up with her without sounding like I'm counting her money and waiting for her to die. Am I the only one? Tell me I'm not crazy. She doesn't know I know, and I think she's hiding it because she knows it's not fair or equal. So I don't know if you want to reiterate your answer to that question, or if we should just kind of talk about wills and sort of this situation where it's not necessarily fair nor equal, and you kind of find out by surprise.
Yeah, I think, at its core, it's not about the money. That being said, some people in these situations might really need, again, right? They might really need that resource. And so, of course, maybe there is a piece of it. But I think emotionally, it's not about the money. It's about, am I a person to you? And so many adopted and trafficked people already feel so erased, right? Like they erase our birth certificates. Like there's erasure from the beginning. There's erasure culturally, socially still about our truths, our stories. And so this is like yet another experience of like, am I not real to you? And I think whether we're talking biological parents or adoptive parents, it's still that trigger of, am I a person to you? Am I real? Am I not worthy of being claimed? And so, of course, this is extremely painful to find out that you've been left out in any way.
Have you seen people, like I've heard of this before, but like in an adoptive family where bio kids get one treatment and adoptive kids get a different treatment. For example, I was just scrolling obituaries the other day, again, showing my age, and I thought there was one, and it was listing off all the, the people that are still remain with us. And then they're listed off the kids, and then it said, and his adopted son, so-and-so. And I was like, oh, wow. You even get an asterisk in the obit. I mean, good for you, you got included, but we know you're not equal.
I think that, yes, the treatment can go, I mean, I know we're talking wills, but I think it can start way before that, like that biological kids get down payments for their first homes and adopted kids get to pay their own way through undergrad. Like I absolutely have seen those situations where the treatment financially, way before we're even talking wills, is completely different.
What do you do? What do you do? Do you speak up for yourself? I don't even know.
Of course, I'm pro using your voice, and there are points where that doesn't matter anymore, where people have already tried, and there's a point, right, where we can't change the other people. So I think to go back to the wills piece, I think it's absolutely worth a conversation and trying to express the emotions first, the feelings first. This is how this landed on me. What's going on for you. I think with the birth parent piece specifically, there's an extra complex layer of whatever their shame is, right? Or fear, I think that birth parents can have a lot of fear about what their other kids will feel, not just about us returning, right? Like that reunion moment and having to tell them most likely for the first time, like I had a pregnancy, I had a child, right? All of that. I think there's so much shame, but then I think that still courses forward in the dynamic. And so I don't know. I'm wondering if this birth mother felt like not able, not that she thought it was right, but maybe she felt unable to say, not only all of this, not only have I lied, not only am I this, whatever the negative story is in her mind, but also now you get less because your sibling came back. And I don't know. I just think it's a lot more complicated than just what we see on the surface, right? Or when we personalize it, it's just more complex. And so can we ask in that moment, can you tell me about this decision because I'm hurting and I don't understand?
It's so complicated because it's not just about your relationship with them either, because it does impact the
Mm-hmm.
others as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's tricky. So tricky. So, what would it do to someone if they really have that happen, where they're just excluded from the will and they had a good reunion for, 30 years, whatever? You think you're in, everything's good, and you're just not.
I mean, I think like this person said, it could be a breaking point. It could, because
Mm.
it could be that painful. It could
Mm.
be that wounding. I think it would bring in doubt, if it had been a quote unquote good reunion that whole time of, what has this all been? And what do I really mean to you? Where do I belong in your life? Do I have a place in your life?
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about reunion. I remember an early on episode that you and I talked about this, and I don't know how much made it to air, but I think some of it did. But talking about reunion in international countries, sorry, for international adoptees who are in reunion who may be asked for money from their adoptee, especially if they're in an impoverished nation.
So, yeah, I don't love that language. Impoverished countries isn't sitting so well with me. I would prefer something like countries economically crushed under global colonialism and white supremacy, because there is an intergenerational legacy of abuse that results in the financial hardships of these countries that most transnational adoptees come from, that have been so exploited for whatever valuable resources remain. That also includes babies.
Such a good point. Yes, thank you for the correction. I I think a lot of people didn't know that in South Korea, for example, like one of their main
Yes.
economic boons was international adoption. And if folks listen to, you haven't heard this yet, but the episode that will be out just before this one, we're talking with adoptees who were one was adopted from Chile to Sweden. And she's
Mm-hmm.
telling us about there were Swedish social workers that like lived in Chile in order to export these kids out to Sweden, a
Mm-hmm.
wealthier at the time nation. Yeah, it's complicated.
And, I think it's easy to judge Korea for being the largest exporter of babies. And why were they in that situation in the first place? If you look further back in that country's history, there's a reason that they were in that position in the first place. And so the coercion that we talk about with birth moms, like that all happens on a global level as well, on a country to country level. And so I would say that any country that has an international transnational adoption trade has suffered under the weight of global colonialism in some way. And so then if we zoom back into the individual real quick, what does that do to us transnational transracial adoptees when we're in reunion and there maybe is financial hardship, is suffering in our birth family? Some of us don't have the means to help. And actually, I think that's more concrete and kind of can be simpler as far as I really can't help you, right? Where is it when maybe we can, but maybe we're not comfortable? Maybe we don't feel safe, meaning, how do you trust in the fact that if you don't give the money, that the people will still be around? And even if you give it freely, it's care, right? We talked about this earlier in the episode. There's an association with money and care. So, what is it as an adult, adopted, trafficked person to provide care for people that did not care for you? And how do we make peace with that? It's just all extremely complicated. I'm moving through so much of this myself right now, having moved home to Colombia. My mother's health is not well. She has had a tremendously difficult life. She worked harder than maybe anyone I know, sacrificed her body. I mean, that's what's going on with her health right now, quite literally. Like she sacrificed her body for years, working on her hands and knees, cooking, sewing, sleep deprivation, like so many sacrifices just to keep my siblings clothed and fed. And now, at this stage in her life, her health is so bad that she cannot work. How is that fair? What is she supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Just watch her suffer? But also, I am a 38-year-old child free by choice woman that chose financial independence for a reason. I have financial independence that my female ancestors could never dream of. And now I'm taking on this responsibility for my mom. Not all the time, but when she's with me, I'm 100% financially responsible for her. And the emotions that have come with that, even though I have clarity of thought and clarity of heart about what I want to do, that doesn't mean that there's not younger parts of me screaming and flipping out about how unfair. But what is the concrete solution? Sometimes there isn't one. And so again, we're back to this injustice that I think is at the center of so many adopted and trafficked feelings, of the intense injustice from the individual level to the community level, to the country level, to the global level, right? It just like billows out. And who gets crushed at the center of it?
I mean, I just thought we were just taking a really light subject. No, it's not light, but okay, so we've really set up all the hard, the complicated, all the things for folks. How can we set up and build a sense of financial safety, abundance, confidence with money decisions now, if those are things that we're struggling with?
Yeah, I think also, right, what was our financial education? What did it look like in the families we were raised in? Was there any, or was money one of those things that was not talked about? And so, again, I'm like still on injustice, of course, because it's not fair that if you did not receive any financial education either in your home or in school, right? I could also rant about that, how that's not part of our education. And even those of us sometimes with like advanced degrees, it was never part of it. No financial training, no business training, right? That it's, yeah, like we don't have enough things to do around our healing. But I would advise adopted and trafficked people to seek some education. If you don't feel financially literate, to seek out some education around that, whether that's like reading a book or listening to podcasts, right? Or hiring a coach or whatever that looks like, because I do think we're at risk to have an unhealthy relationship with money, and we deserve security and safety.
What are like one or two things that we can do just as practice? I'm thinking like, how do we teach ourselves that it's safe, we're in charge of it, those kinds of things, even be it making decision making, just like how you were explaining your situation with your mom right now. Like, how do you set yourself up for success with, okay, I know I'm able to do this, and this is my boundary, any sort of things like that, little advice, things you can give on that.
I mean, it's a little giant one, right? But like, do you know how much money you have? Do you know what's coming in and coming out? A lot of us have shame about even looking directly at those numbers. And I think technology makes it easier than ever to kind of look away if you don't want to. We just go click, bing, we click a button, or we like tap, and none of it's real. And so a first step, and this was my first step years ago when I did money coaching, is to look into the numbers, to literally sit and look at them and confront whatever comes up about that.
Mm-hmm. Be in reality. Let's welcome you to reality. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
That's great. And there's so many things about budgeting and there's just so many resources about that. That doesn't have to be anything adoptee related. But if you're struggling more in this area, I think it'd be a great thing to dig into with your therapist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take it to therapy. And because there are so many emotions involved. And then I think my other advice would be my classic Marta advice, which is don't be alone with it. Too. Like I've had a lot of clients that have the big shame triggers around money, all these things, seek support from loved ones. Like if looking at those numbers is overwhelming, can someone who loves you sit next to you while you do that and help you regulate your nervous system while you confront the reality of whatever's going on?
I'm working on this new show and I'm about to need a bunch of money. And so it's really stressful to ask for people to help when you're so used to doing everything by yourself and being fully independent and just, it feels very difficult to ask for help. But
I think that's such an important piece they are highlighting too around the triggers around all of this, which is like if we do get ourselves into rough financial situations, like how much powerlessness comes up, right? And powerlessness is, again, one of those feelings that vibrates right down to the primal wound. And I think, we know, adopted and trafficked or not, people can make really extreme decisions when they feel out of control financially. It's a high risk factor to have.
All right. So we welcome you all to be in reality with us. Thank you so much, Marta. I really loved your original answer to this question. So we're going to cut it and we're going to put it at the very end of the show for people to listen to so they can hear our hot takes.
I don't remember what I said.
It was great. And I had some great observations too. So we just both come out on top. So
great.
Yeah. No, I don't really remember either. So, but you're going to hear it very soon, right away. But first, I know you're doing lots of amazing things now that you have relocated and are doing all this online work. Where can people connect with you, hear what's coming up for you?
So I do have a public Instagram now. It's Sierra, Sierra.speaks.verdad, Verdad. That's truth in Spanish. You can follow me there, and there's information on the groups that I'm running, and probably will continue to add some more new groups this coming year. So stay tuned. That's a great way to just be in the know if you are interested in groups with me. And my practice email is also on my Instagram, which is also on the Adoptees On website, but that's Marta Sierra, LMHC@gmail.com. And I have 3 groups that are taking members. I have a wait list right now for a second cohort of Navigating Transnational Reunion, a therapeutic support group for transnational adult adoptees currently navigating transnational reunions, where you travel back and forth and your heart is in 2 places at once. That time is TBD because I'm going to wait till the cohort fills and kind of get everybody's consent on a time. But a weeknight, sometime between 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard is probably generally where that will land. All my groups are $25 via Venmo. I also have room in my Homecoming group. That's a therapeutic support group for transnational adult adoptees currently living in their homelands or planning to move back, either temporarily or permanently. So that group is running. So that's Mondays, 6 to 7:15 Eastern Standard, biweekly. The other one's biweekly as well. So I have room in that for new members. And then I'm starting up a Liberation and Abolition group. That's a therapeutic support group for adult survivors of adoption, adoptees of color currently navigating the terror of trying to survive under empire, who are oriented towards liberation and abolition in all forms, to be in community together and raise our voices against oppression. This is an affinity space for people of the global majority and an open process group. And that is Thursdays, 6 to 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, biweekly. Come join us.
Okay, that is amazing. I love that you have those and so needed and waitlist. Of course, Marta is an expert in all these things, and I know that she can help guide many of you through, as an expert, through really challenging circumstances that you're navigating yourself and have navigated. So thank you. What a gift to our community. Thank you so much for your wisdom, Marta.
Thanks, Haley.
What a pleasure to get to talk with you.
Always great to chat. Thanks, Haley.
I've been waiting to ask you this question. This is my most anticipated question for you, okay? So finally someone said it out loud. Can we talk wills? I promise I'm not money grubbing, but this has me livid. I found out that my bio mom has left her kept kids everything and I won't get anything when she passes. Where is the equality? This could break our reunion, frankly. What's the ethical thing to do in this situation? I don't even know how to bring it up with her without sounding like I'm counting her money and waiting for her to die. Am I the only one? Tell me I'm not crazy. She doesn't know that I know, and I think she's hiding it because she knows it's not fair or equal.
Ugh, yeah, I was glad to see this question too. I think that a lot of people aren't maybe talking about it. Like, I love the start, right? Can we talk about this? Yes, we could talk about it. Of course we could talk about it. And I think issues around inheritance on both sides, on adoptive and biological sides, are huge triggers. Everybody has a lot of feelings about it. And the biggest, I think, I don't want to say mistake, but misunderstanding about it is that it's about the money. And I think because of that, that's why there's silence around it. And why people don't want to talk about this topic in public or in front of other people, because it sounds like it's about money, because we're talking wills and we're talking inheritance, but it's not about money at all. If you're adopted, it's not even about the money. It's about belonging, respect, feeling seen, feeling acknowledged, mattering to the other people, and equality, right? As she said, and about being an equal with whether that's other siblings or other family members, whatever it is. So I just, again, for anyone struggling with this, I just wish for you to wrap your feelings in compassion and shake that shame off, because it's not about money. Our feelings about money are linked to feelings about care. So it's a really emotional topic, truly. And I think, my advice around bringing this up would be to go to stay in that, to stay in the feelings, not the why am I not getting anything, but why did you decide this? Can you tell me about that? Because I feel really hurt. The impact of finding this out, and finding it out not from you, is that I don't matter. And I would just like to know a little bit about your thinking and your feeling around it, versus why did you leave me out, right? Really going to like what, because as I often say when we're talking reunion stuff, right? It's so easy to make assumptions about why someone did what they did or didn't do what they didn't do. And it's just can be a lot more complicated, and most likely fear is driving decisions. So if this person really wants answers, how much curiosity can they bring to this conversation of, I'd love to know like why you decided this. If you can tell me a little bit about it, because I feel really hurt and I feel really confused and really overwhelmed, and I don't want to feel any of those ways, but the impact of this on me was feeling like I'm not as important as your other kids. And I'm going to imagine that's not how you want me to feel. So can you tell me a little bit about why you did this?
Also, sometimes when we hear secondhand information, it's not always accurate. So I'm not saying that in this case.
No, I love that. That's a great point, Haley. Is this true? That's a great place to start.
Yeah. I mean, people love stirring up drama when bio or adoptive,
especially around this topic too. Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you have a falling out, maybe you won't get anything. Like, right? Like,
yes.
It's a, you don't always know what people's intentions are. Okay, friend, this is our last episode until we'll be back in September with brand new episodes for you. In the meantime, there's lots of bonus content over on our Patreon, which also will be still going through the summer. So if you want to join us for a book club, Ask an Adoptee Therapist, our Adoptees Off Script parties, just come. we would love to have you. We're a good time, I promise. If you think I can't filter myself on the main feed here, you'd be surprised of the things I say on off script. I'm surprised of the things I say on off script. I would like to share with you my exciting news. I'm actually not taking a vacation this summer. Instead, I am full in working on a brand new podcast. You may have heard me talk about this show before, the hopes and dreams for this project. You have likely heard me talk about why I make, bi-weekly episodes instead. It's because I've been working on this project in the background for all this time, which has meant a lot of brainstorming, connecting with people, team building, lawyering, all kinds of logistical, adulty things, if you will. I'm so excited and passionate about this project. I believe that it's our turn to tell everyone about adoption's impact on adoptees and birth first parents. And so we are making the podcast to do just that. If you want to stay informed and up to date on what we are doing, you can go to onadoption.net. It has a newsletter sign up, and we invite you to join our newsletter list. You'll be the first to know if we're looking for guests, you want to be a part of it. If you're looking to get involved in some way, the opportunities will first show up on that newsletter. And we also have our social media going on Instagram at On Adoption. I hope to bring you many more great updates. But right now I'm in the midst of recording with some very special mothers who've placed a child for adoption, and they are bearing their souls, and it is really difficult work and so important. And I can't wait to be able to share this with everyone because it's so, so deeply important. Family preservation is just a deep passion of mine. I know it is of many of yours. And so we also are starting a new nonprofit that's called Adoptees for Family Preservation. And we're going to tell you more about that soon as well. Like so many huge things happening. Thank you for being a part of it. And, whether you're supporting Adoptees On Patreon, listening to the episodes, sharing them with your friends, any of those things, you are helping this ecosystem stay alive and well. And I thank you for it. Thank you for prioritizing adoptee voices. Thank you for listening. Let's talk again very soon.